I'm going to say a few words about how ACAMP can help you take your new medical technology and turn it into a product that's successful in the commercial marketplace. Forward is, which one? That one. Excellent. So my talk is going to be in two parts, really. First, I'm going to say a few words about why MNT is important in the health and medical space and some of its unique features that present us with challenges from a manufacturing perspective. And I want to talk about how ACAMP can help. So, MNT, we've heard quite a lot about MNT already this morning, so I think we've all got a fairly good understanding of the technology and some of the devices that can be implemented using micro and nanotechnology. We've heard a lot about the sort of smart molecules. We've heard a little bit about microfluidics as well. I guess from a manufacturing perspective, the important thing about these technologies is that they're all very small. So a good definition of microtechnology is typically something that has an active structure that's less than 100 microns in dimension. That's about the diameter of a human hair. So we're already starting to deal with things about the size of a human hair. When you get down to nanotechnology, you're talking about things on the scale of molecules, around about 100 nanometers in size scale. So from a manufacturing perspective, that makes these things very difficult to handle, very difficult to assemble, very difficult to even inspect to make sure we've done the assembly and manufacturing correctly. So we've got lots of challenges there in developing new manufacturing techniques to make take MNT to marketplace. But why do you want to use it? So we think it can do lots of new and exciting things, and I think we've seen some evidence of that this morning with the papers we've looked at. One of the great drivers we're finding is people wanting to shrink existing functions and put more of them in a smaller and smaller space. So they can, for instance, the camera pill is a great example where you want to be able to put an entire camera into a small pill that can be swallowed and can then transmit information back from inside the body to tell you what's going on in the digestive tract. Taking analysis to the point of use, personalized medicine, these are all very important thrusts that we're seeing a lot of interest in from our customer base. And finally, being able to manipulate things at the molecular level, which is great, but in a test tube, but doing it in the real world out in the sub-Saharan Africa would be quite challenging. You've got to somehow provide an environment that manipulation can take place in that enables the molecular manipulation to happen independent of what's going on in the world around it. So, what are the challenges in using MNT? The devices on their own are not very useful. They only operate really well in a laboratory environment inside a test tube. They need to be interfaced to our macroscopic world, and that's kind of a lot of what we help people do. Typically through assembling the MNT device with a bunch of other components that enable it to be truly useful as a functional device, and then packaging the whole thing up so that it can be taken out into the real world and actually used in a real world environment. The challenge we're finding is that the technology is very new. I mean, these are all emerging technologies, and supply chains are either not established or, in some cases, entirely non-existent. So making sure you can buy all the pieces you need, put them all together in a timely manner and create the product is very important. The technologies are very multidisciplinary. You now have biologists talking to electrical engineers, talking to mechanical engineers, talking to physicists, and this can be quite a fun challenge at times as well. And it needs state-of-the-art manufacturing. We've already kind of mentioned the small size scales, which make the manipulation and development of these products very difficult. On the marketing, on the business front, we can find that market pool for new technologies can be quite weak. People look at the kind of high cost and risk of bringing new products to market, and it can seem very frightening. So somehow we need to reduce that cost and risk. And that's what ACAMP does, basically. ACAMP's role is to make it easier for companies engaged in product development to access the equipment and resources they need to successfully develop new products in the marketplace. And we break that down into four provisions that we have for our customers. The first one is assembly and packaging. We're experts in developing new assemblies and new packages to take the nanotechnologies and turn them into real products. We're also working pretty hard to set up supply chain links as well to make sure that we have all the pieces and components we need to build the product. So when somebody comes to us with an idea, we can actually hook them into a bunch of different people who have the necessary subunits they need to build their entire product. We also help with the business and market development as well, and that's on the technology side of the house. At least half of our business is devoted towards helping people figure out what markets they need, what products they need to develop, and where to actually launch their products. And finally, we provide, we hope, easy and cost-effective access to all the technologies and resources people need, particularly for people in the region of Western Canada and in Alberta in particular. So talking a little bit about market and business development, I'm just going to say I have one slide for this, just to point out that we do this. Ken and Matthew are the guys if you want to talk about that side of the the operation. They do all the classic stuff in terms of defining products, understanding the markets, building business cases, obtaining funding, and so on to make sure that you have the adequate resources to finish the product development. And very often, one of the reasons product developments fail is because there's not enough resource there in the first place, or they're wrongly targeted or picked the wrong market to go into. So I think this is an important part of the process, and it's often the very first thing we do with most of our customers. Let me talk a little bit about product development, because that's my main area of interest. We offer a full product development service, effectively, making sure that we start with a good, solid design, and we believe a thing called design for manufacturing is very, very important. So we started with a good, solid design process to make sure that we develop a good design that can be manufactured to meet the cost targets and the volume targets you're likely to have in the end market. We then can take you through the whole process of developing that design and prototyping it, testing it very thoroughly, and eventually producing a product which can be taken out to market. So we don't really do a lot of front-end fabrication. That's one area we don't do much of. We look around the region. We don't try to do what other people are already doing, what's the resources that are already available. There are many sources from getting front-end fabrication done, chips made and so on. So you can go to the University of Alberta Nanofab, AMIF down in Calgary, or even Microline, who are a commercial chip manufacturer for MEMS type chips and so on. Or you can go and buy semiconductor chips from any number of semiconductor manufacturers. Where there is a big gap is in the ability to take all those diverse components and assemble them and package them together. And then another big gap we see is in the thorough testing of those products to make sure they're going to work properly and they're reliable, they meet the performance requirements, and they have the capabilities that the end customer needs. So we believe very strongly in both inline testing characterization, making sure that the products are manufactured properly, but also testing at the end of it and doing some thorough characterization exercises. So we have two facilities. We have a main facility in Edmonton where we do we are capable of doing pilot production up to about 10,000 units per year, and that enables us that embodies a number of different technologies I'm just going to talk about in a minute. We have a smaller facility in Calgary where we can do some low volume prototyping. We've also targeted that facility a little bit more at high speed because that's where we find the market pull in Calgary is more focused around sort of high speed modules. So starting off then, the very first thing we do when we work with a customer typically is to do some sort of design process, and this often involves simulation. We can offer very good access to ANSYS multiphysics. We're going to hear a little bit more about ANSYS multiphysics this afternoon. I think they're coming in to talk about some of the things they can do in the medical space. And we back that up with the ability to do physical design using SolidWorks. You can create a three-dimensional model of the product you're trying to make, so you can look at it thoroughly in 3 dimensions to make sure it's manufacturable and it meets the functional requirements you have. We have a bunch of other tools as well for various specific aspects of product design, and we'd use those as appropriate in each different product development project. The other thing we can back up our tools with is also expertise in use of the simulation tools as well. Often these tools are not easy to use for a complete beginner. Don't do this at home, folks. We can actually help you out a lot there with setting up the simulations as well. And again, design for manufacturability, making sure that you can manufacture the end product in the volumes you need at the cost you need is a core philosophy when we do our design work. We have invested in lab-on-a-chip capabilities as well. We've heard a little bit about microfluidics this morning. We are able to prototype reasonable volumes of microfluidic devices. We can prototype maybe up to 100,000 units per year of moderate-sized microfluidic cartridges. And there's an example, a commercial example of a cartridge up there already. And our main prototyping tool is, in fact, hot embossing. We chose this because at those kind of volumes, it's a very cost-effective solution. Tooling costs are fairly low. It can do pretty much everything that injection molding can do at the same time. So we can stamp out reasonable numbers of chips for quite moderate costs. We've also invested in the ability to make our own stamps by nickel mold making and lithography. And we found this is quite important because actually making stamps is the key to a successful microfluidic product. And we've got various other technologies available within for instance, we can change surface energy by using plasmas, and we're looking at adding a capability to dispense liquid droplets onto a microfluidic chip prior to the final assembly so that we can actually locally modify the surface by adding various bioreagents. That may be something of interest to people.